Hi, everyone. Welcome to Notary Academy. Not every notary journey looks the same, and that matters. Some notaries work full time, some are building slowly, and some are focused first on learning the law and doing things correctly. Today, I am joined by Lori MacPherson, a Texas notary and Notary Academy member, who is intentionally building her notary business while balancing work and family. And I also have Michele Smith, our Texas Notary Academy advisor, who provides state specific guidance and education. This conversation is about professionalism, ethics, and why having the right education and support matters and makes all the difference. So, Lori, let's start with your story. Thank you for being here. What
Hi.
led you to become a notary in Texas?
I actually work for the state of Texas, and they like to have their admins, administrative assistants, be notaries so that anybody that needs an affidavit signed or whatever is needed in the office, they like to have notaries on hand. So that's what started my journey. I will say, when you work for the state and you apply through the state to get your notary, it takes forever. I had submitted my paperwork in April. It went up the chain. I think they said they finally submitted it in September, and this is 2024, and or no, 2023. And then I still hadn't received it, didn't receive word that it had been approved or anything. I asked them about it, and they were like, "Well, here's the website. Keep checking your name. As soon as your name shows up, you've got your commission." I'm like, "Okay." So I kept doing that, and then come April 2024, I'm like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. There's only a couple of notaries, and they were getting bombarded all the time, and they weren't be able to complete their work before the end of the day. And so I was like, I'm just gonna do it myself. And the one lady's like, no, 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 don't. It's already been submitted. And I'm like, okay. So I called the state of Texas. They said, no, we don't have anything here. You don't, oops, you don't have your commission. So I was like, all right, fine. I let them know. And I just went online, paid it myself, and said, okay, great. It said 6 to 8 weeks. You should get your commission. I had it within a week.
Okay,
And
so
then
I have to ask you, was that just a just maybe an internal mess up with your employer? Is that how that went down, or you just don't know?
I don't know. I've heard that when you do it through the state like that, like through your like working for the state, it
Yeah.
takes a long time. Some have said it took them a year and a half to get it. I'm like, that is absolutely ridiculous. But
Wow.
that's what happened. And I don't know if they do it where they put through the ones that are paying first instead of the ones that are coming through the state. I honestly don't know. But it was taking forever. And so I did it myself. And then my coworker's like, you know what? It's actually better if you do it yourself and pay for it, because doing it through the state for my work, they pay the bond and it'd only be the bond, and I wouldn't be able to do anything outside of work.
Oh.
And so I was like, okay. And she's like, yeah, you can get some extra money and help pay for things and stuff. And I'm just like, ooh, that sounds like a great idea.
So
That's where it all started.
so you've had your commission then since 2024.
Yes.
That is awesome. I'm glad that you took the initiative to go and get it and to get it so quickly. Michelle, did you get yours as quickly as well? Like a week? Is that all it took?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it was actually less than a week.
See, that's awesome because I know in California, it's the whole process, especially when you're first new, it takes like 4 to 6 months. And I know other states, it just depends on the state.
Could slow down a little now that we are having the training requirements. I've not had to go through that myself personally. I know that there's 4 sections for the traditional notary with a test. And then for the Ron commission, there are 2 sections. So those are 2 different trainings that you have to take. I don't know how it slowed down the process of actually um, sending out the commissions, but we'll see.
Okay, so Lori, do you do Ron signings as well, or you're just
Not yet.
a okay, so are you going to look into that in the future? Is that something on your horizon?
Eventually, yeah, eventually I will, just not yet. I want to get everything else down pat first before I throw something else in there.
I love that. That's what I tell all of our members, especially like when it comes to going and diversifying or doing anything, that it's super important to get your skills, your laws, your foundations, everything down pat first, and then move on to whatever it is. So you're on the right track and in the right mode for that one for sure. Um, I'm looking at my list of questions here that I wanted to ask you. So, you've kind of told us, but I want to know, what does being a notary mean to you personally? Because I know that you just said that you decided to do it outside of work for a little extra money, something like that, right? What is your why?
I like helping people. I'm one of those helpers, and I love doing it at work because I'm helping them. And then doing it outside of work, I've started networking and posting a little bit more. And so that way I can help the neighborhood and get those documents notarized for them so that way they can continue doing what they need to do. I've done a couple wills and estate plans, which I actually really like doing because I know my dad died without a will. And so it was up in Canada, so there's no probate or anything like that. But it was just something that has stuck with me going, well, I want to help those that are trying to get that done, to help their families and secure something later on in life.
I love that. Your goal is to be a professional notary, and I know that by the words that you just said, is that you love to help people. And I think that anybody that's in this profession, that should be one of their number one passions. So I think it speaks loud and clear, because if you would have been like, well, I'm in it for the money,
Yep.
it's great, but
Wrong business to be in it for the money at the beginning. You
there
got
you
to
go.
work it and go from there. I did the training, was it last weekend with Audra?
Hmm.
And I posted on Nextdoor because she said, go out and post somewhere that you haven't really posted. I was like, you know what? I wanted to post on Nextdoor and I keep forgetting to do that. So I did that. A couple hours later, I had a message from someone asking me if I would sign, if I was able to notarize divorce documents. And I was like, ooh, I think so. But wouldn't that be something that you need to do in lawyer's office? Then I texted Michelle and she's like, no, you're good to go. I'm like, awesome. So I reached back out to her and she said, well, she goes, I'm getting everything ready and then I'll let you know when we're ready to go.
That's fantastic. So the little bit of information you got from Audra's visibility last week,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And what's amazing is she told me that she's already been having notaries calling her, telling her, hey, Audra, I did what you said for Google, or I did this, and I already had 3 appointments, and our people were calling. So
That's
I
awesome.
love hearing that it's working, right? You're implementing and it's working. So music to my ears.
It's music to her ears too. She knows all that work that she put into doing that presentation is working.
Yeah, oh, for sure. So I have to ask you, why is it important to you? Because as a Notary Academy member, you know that you're learning your skills and your laws and your foundation. Why is learning and knowing your laws important to you compared to somebody that just knows how to notarize?
Because if you don't know the laws properly, you can make mistakes and they can be very, very costly, not just for myself, but if I notarize, say, a will or a trust or something, and I mess that up, that person who I did it for, they can no longer speak and say, hey, no, this is what I really wanted done. And then it could be very costly for that family as well. I don't want to go to jail or have fines or lose my commission. I've been working hard to learn all this so that way I don't do that. And especially now with the new notary laws that are coming, well, let's just started. I don't want to lose that commission. I really enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think it's so important that, like I said, the same thing when it comes to people, I just want to make money versus understanding how integral our job is and how important it is and what we're doing. So, um, I love that. I love being able to educate others. And if people are listening to this, I want that message to be heard loud because that's the difference between a professional notary and a hustler.
And you see it in the different notary Facebook groups that are out there. Someone asks a question and they don't really know. And it's just like, okay, well, they don't know. And it's like, well, you get others going on there and they're nasty in their comments going, well, go ask your state, go read a book, go learn your laws and stuff. And it's like, I'm sure they know that, but they might be having like a brain freeze like I do. And when I have my brain freeze, I have Michele on my phone.
Right?
And it's happened, and Michele knows that. And some days I'm thinking, oh, she's probably going to not want to answer my call or text. I bother her too much. But it's just, you want to make sure you're doing things right. And those people online that get mad at those that want to ask the questions to make sure that they're doing it right, then those people shouldn't be notaries because they're nasty.
And let's be honest, the Texas Secretary of State site is not really easy to navigate to find the answers to the questions that you have. They have some general frequently asked questions, but following their links and trying to get back and jumping back and forth,
yeah,
you can go through a lot of rabbit holes and still not really have the answer you're looking for.
And some will say, well, just call the NNA hotline. I did that the one time, and it was before I started with my Notary Academy. And they was like, oh, well, you don't have a membership, so we'll give you this one question free. And I was like, okay. So I answered it, or I asked it, they answered it. And then when I went back and I was looking at different things, I was like, you know what? I don't even know if they really answered that correctly or not. And I was just like, I need more education. And
Yeah.
I needed more that was more Texas specific, not just general.
So, is there anything about notarial acts or procedures that surprised you once you started learning?
I don't know if it was more notarial acts that surprised me, just learning where it was just like, okay, well, I need to make sure that you do this and you do this. Sometimes it's the wording that trips me up on some of the notarial blocks. And it's, as Michele said to me a few times, read it out loud and you should be able to figure it out. And I'm like, okay, so read it out loud. I'm like, well, that was a dumb question for me. Yeah, I put this here.
And sometimes that really helps.
It does.
Yeah, just read it out loud. I love that tip because sometimes you have to read it a couple of times. But once you, like you just said, you read it and then you're like, oh, okay. Because we overthink things sometimes, right?
Yes.
I think a lot of us overthink things for sure.
I'm an overthinker. I do that at work all the time. And I get told, no, it's a simple answer. I'm like, well, what about this, this, and this, and this? And like, that's got nothing to do with it. Just leave that out of there. And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Lori, would you say from your perspective that having a state specific education has helped you feel more confident?
Yes. Yeah. Because then I know I'm following the Texas laws and not, say, following a law from California that doesn't actually apply to Texas or the opposite way around. And it's just like, well, you need to make sure you're following your state specific laws.
Right.
That's what any charges or fees or anything like that will come back on state specific, not general.
Yeah.
So since you are newer and you're building your business, what has it been like being able to reach out and ask questions when you have uncertainties?
It's been great. You are always there. You always answer anytime. I know that if I'm at a signing and I have the questions, I need to put 911 and you answer right away. Most times, even when I don't put 911 and I'm figuring, okay, well, I'm going to go see this person tomorrow. I'll just ask now before I forget. And you're already calling me going, okay, well, what do you think you need to do? And it's just, and I'm like, okay, well, I wasn't expecting your call now, but okay. It's been great. You're always like right on, keep hitting the box. You're always right on the ball. And it's been absolutely wonderful knowing that you're there and knowing that there's someone there that's going to have my back and help me when I need that help.
I think that's awesome. And I love that you are so interactive in your own mentorship and education. And did you ask those questions? So I want you to explain to me why you think it's better to ask rather than assume before you start those. You've got something new. Why do you feel that it's better for you to ask those questions?
Because if you make those mistakes, it can be very, very costly. And if you don't know, you ask. I've always been told that. And then whenever I've started a new job and I start with new bosses, I'm like, oh, just to let you know, I ask a lot of questions. And I've had supervisors say to me, okay, you've had your 10 questions for the day. It's 9 o'clock. We're good, right? I'm like, yeah, I'll be back at 10. See ya. I'm sure I'll have more. I'm always one that asks questions because if I don't know, then I'll make mistakes. And even if I do ask the questions, I still might make mistakes, but then I will learn from them. But if I don't know, I need to ask first.
I've always been that way. I always want to know why something works the way it does. And it helps my brain work through all of the steps. If I understand why I'm doing it this way, it just goes deeper.
Yeah. I've had that at work with a coworker where she told me, okay, well, you just do it this way. And I was like, but I don't understand why. And she was like, well, because you just do it this way. And we kept going around that little circle a few times. And I was like, okay. So then I went and sat down because it was really starting to bother her. And I was like, okay. So I sat down and I just kind of fiddled around with that spreadsheet. And then she's like, oh, now I know why. Now I understand why we have to do it this way. And it's to go on for doing it this way as well. And it just, you need to ask.
I'm glad that you brought that up because I have to tell you, there's so many people that will follow along like online notaries, right? Where they'll just take advice from another notary and that other notary says, well, this is how we do it, right? And I think it's super important that you just said it. It's okay that you trust that person, just like Michele. You trust Michele. She has great information, right? But ultimately, our boss is Secretary of State, right? That's who you get your commission from. So that's who the law and that's who you're going to get your final answer from. But then when you have issues, like Michele just said, going to the website, contacting them, sometimes you don't always get all the right, pieces that you need. And so then you might rely on somebody else to give you the information. And it could be a slippery slope. So
Very, very slippery.
really knowing their credentials, knowing their background, knowing their history, knowing how reliable of a source are they to get that information from, and then
Right.
knowing if you're comfortable enough taking it. So I love that you said that because we have so many people that want to be helpful to others
Mhm.
and they think they're being helpful, but they're not always giving the right information.
And then even knowing what I know now, like no, it was that first summer. So it'd be the 2024. And it was actually before I started my Notary Academy. My oldest son was going off to university. So we did the Mama Bear Legal and got the will, power of attorneys, medical power of attorneys, and all that kind of stuff. And I told them, I said, okay, we need to go and get them notarized. So my husband made an appointment at the bank, but they couldn't get an appointment where I could go at the same time. So my part to notarize, like to sign and get notarized, had to be done a couple days later. And they came home, their stuff was notarized. I'm like, great. I went in a few days later and they came with, and the lady didn't say 2 words to me. She didn't ask me for my ID. Or no, she asked me for my ID, but didn't look at me, like didn't look at the ID and then look up at me to make sure it was actually me. She did not administer the oath and just stamped it, signed it. I signed her book and away we went. And we walked back to the truck and Paul goes, well, see, that was easy. I'm like, yeah, it was wrong, but yeah. And he says to me, he goes, wait a minute, it was wrong. I'm like, did she administer an oath with you and James? And he's like, because it was the same lady. And he was just like, no. I'm like, then it's wrong. She didn't
Wow.
administer an oath.
Yeah.
And it was just like, wow.
And there's so many, unfortunately, notaries out there that are like that.
Yes.
So, Lori, let me ask you, being that you're a full-time employee,
Mhm.
how do you do your notary work? Like, when are you working? How are you fitting your notary business into your schedule with your work and your family? Because you are a full-time W-2 employee, right?
I am. I do evenings and weekends. I have it set up on my Google business page. My hours are, was it Monday to Friday, 6 to 9, and then I've set my Saturdays and Sundays like 9 to 9 or whatever it is. I actually adjusted the hours last weekend so that way I can increase on Saturdays and Sundays because I only had it till 5. And I was like, oh, not like we really do a whole lot in the evening. So I'll just extend that in case somebody sees it at like 6, goes, oh, crap, I need to get something notarized at the last minute for Monday. And I've gotten a couple calls and stuff from the Google page and dealt with them. Um, it's mostly neighborhood stuff that have reached out to me for evenings and weekends. I've had a couple different groups I'm in. They've reached out and I set the appointments for the evenings or the weekends, and nobody's had an issue with that. They're like, "Oh, great. Well, you know what? We're busy this night, but how about you come this night? Would that work better?" And just look at the calendar. Yep, that works great. Wonderful. Now I don't have to wait in line at the bank. Now I don't have to wait in line at UPS, and I can go about my day and do whatever I need to do during the day. And I'll see you at this time and at the house and
Yeah.
stuff. And of course, you walk in and like, do you mind dogs? Do you mind cats? I'm like, nope, love pets. We're good. And it's worked that way. And there's actually been times where I've had people reach out during the day and they're like, well, I need someone during the day. And I'm like, hey, here's my husband's number since he's a notary too now. He can help you during the day.
Oh, so
And
you're
he's gotten he goes, I get your cast off. So I'm like, well, you're getting something, aren't you?
so your husband became a notary.
After he saw that I was having fun with it, he became a notary in May. And when you say that, thought it was quick that I got my commission within a week, he did it on like a Monday or Tuesday night. He had the email the next morning by like 10 a.m.
Wow.
And it was just like, holy smokes.
That's quick. So, but do you guys still have to go in Texas? You still have to go into the county recorder's office and file an oath and bond, right? You don't.
Now, excuse me, we receive our commissions through email. We print them. We take them before another notary. We have them administer the oath, hopefully,
Yeah.
sign and notarize them. And we keep that original. Our county doesn't have a record of that. Our um, official authority is recorded with the state itself.
Interesting.
Now,
Yeah.
if we decide that we no longer want to be a notary, we are to take our notary journals or records to the county clerk in the county that we reside in so that they can continue to safeguard those records and use them as needed in the future. But no, all we do, that's why I always tell our members, make a copy of your executed commission, put the copy in your notary journal so that if you need to show your commission to anyone, you have it, but put your original up in a safe place because you're the keeper of your own record.
Mhm.
Wow. And see, you can, in California, you can do your oath with another notary, but you can also go, you have to file it with the county recorder's office. So if you do it with another notary, you just mail it in. But if you actually go to the county recorder's office in person, then they do the oath for you, which it's very formal. It's, and it's a different oath than like what we normally give as notaries for affidavits. It's an oath for the Constitution and holding up of being a civil servant.
And that same oath is on our commissions. So that's the oath that they're supposed to administer with us as well.
Interesting. I love hearing how other states, do things. But just like Lori said, it's so important to have the state specific, but it's also important to know, what other states are doing depending on what kind of notary work you're doing. That's my next question, Lori. Out of all the stuff that you've been doing, notarizations, like what are the main documents that you've been notarizing lately? Because you said you did do an estate plan, right? But like what other stuff have you been doing?
I do lots of affidavits at work,
Oh,
and they're easy peasy. And I sit there and it's just, I raise my right hand now to them and administer the oath. And they stand there and they do their hand as well. I'm like, well, there we go. Now we're making it totally official. And we go from there. And I know um, I love to do the estate plannings. I did do a POA in the hospital for someone in one of the groups I'm in for her mom. And when I got there, her mom was she had a headache. And then when the person that they had brought as their witness, I was like, okay, well, can I get your driver's license? And he's like, great. I look at it, I'm like, it expired like 5 days ago. And he was like, oh crap, I thought it was next year. And so the lady's like, okay, I'll call my other friend. I'm like, all right. And ended up sitting around for like another half an hour, but I was okay. I didn't have any plans. We were good. And so then when the other person came, it was a neighbor. And then the mom, she goes by one name, almost like a nickname that has nothing to do with her real name. And so when I told the daughter, I'm like, okay, how does she sign things? And she goes by her real legal name. I'm like, okay, I just wanted to make sure on that. And I just, I sat and I talked with her, and she was of sound mind. And then when the new neighbor showed up, she kept calling him Larry. And come to find out, he's like, yeah, my name is actually Terry. And she's like, I've been calling you Larry for years. And so when I asked her, do you know this gentleman? She goes, yeah, it's Larry. And he's like, no. And I'm like, oh, crap. Now we need to find someone else. In my head, I was about to panic. And I was like, he's like, no, no. He goes, she has always called me Larry, but my real name actually is Terry. I was just like, okay.
that is too funny.
And at first talking with her, it was kind of mumbled and stuff. And she was kind of going from topic to topic and that, but just as I talked to her and she got more comfortable with me, that it was going back and forth. Like, okay, yeah, she is completely of sound mind. But at first she was, not that she wasn't, but didn't really know some things. So I did make note of that in my journal. So that way, if it ever comes back, I was like, she kept calling him Larry. His real name was Terry and such. But I was just like, you know what? I don't know if I really want to do the hospital ones anymore. But I do like doing the affidavits are quick and simple. I've done a few acknowledgments at work. And then, of course, I've done a few of the vaccine paperwork where the parents don't want to have the vaccine. So that way they have record on schools that they're okay with that. That's mostly been it.
Are you guys allowed to charge like a travel fee or a service charge? So I will say this then, because a lot of notaries do not know this, but when it comes to hospital work, you definitely should and can charge a little bit more because hospital work is usually the parking is a whole situation, walking from one wing to another. Like it's more involved than just your regular notary work. And a lot of times newer notaries might think that they're going to charge the same as if they're going out to somebody's home. But when it's a hospital setting, give yourself an extra 25 or 50.
I did actually end up I had given her it was like what was it? It's like 15 miles there and back. So I was like, okay, well that would normally be about $30 for travel. And then I was just like, well, a little bit more. And it ended up being it was only like one document, so that was $10 for a fee. And I ended up saying it was $60. So that way I did have that buffer. And
Yeah.
when she offered me extra money because I sat there extra long, I was like, no, we're good, because I already had kind of worked in a little bit more. And she was fine with that.
Yes, Texas only regulates our notarial fees. We're allowed to charge any kind of service, administrative fee, printing fee, courier fee, e-document fee, whatever we need to, as long as it's fair and it's disclosed beforehand and agreed upon. So,
So let me ask you, Michelle, in California, for a hospital signing one document, 125 to 150, depending on the area, is not out of line. How is that in Texas?
75 would probably be about top dollar. But the difference between us and California is you're getting a notarial fee per signature. In
Correct.
Texas, we get $10 per notarial act for the first signer. If there are two signers on one document and they are sharing a notarial certificate, we can only charge an additional dollar for each additional name. Now, if they have individual certificates, even if they sign the same document, then they're $10 each. But if they're sharing, we only get an additional dollar per name.
See, and I made that mistake with one of the ladies in the neighborhood, because it was two separate documents, but I was like, well, it's the same signer. So I only charged her $11 when I really should have charged her 20. And that was on me. I learned that lesson. So now, but at least I didn't overcharge her. I'd rather
Right.
undercharge her than her say, well, I looked it up on the state and it says it should have only been 11 and you charged me 20. I'm never seeing you again. And I undercharged her. And then the next time when I went back, I didn't tell her, but I was like, well, yeah, now this is $20. And she's like, okay. And away we went. And it was fine.
So is that something that you would say that you've learned through education that's made you feel more confident understanding your pricing?
Yes. I still like to add, whenever someone is posting or asking about prices in different groups and stuff, I like to look to see what they are charging, or I've even gone on to different notaries' websites that have actually posted theirs just to see what they are charging, especially for that travel fee. Because I know when I first started and I was doing the travel, I was going exactly what the IRS was saying that you could chart that they would reimburse you for. So I was doing that 60 cents, 70 cents. And then I heard others going, no, 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 if you go 10 miles, you can charge them $20. I'm like, what? Really? And so then I was just like, oh, you know, but it was that learning process. I didn't know that at first. So I was going by what the IRS said and going from there. And so I have changed the way I do some of my pricing just by looking at what the notaries are charging in the area.
So you can stay competitive. I get
Mhm.
it for
Yeah.
sure.
So why do you think continuing education is important in this profession?
Laws change. And if you don't keep up with those laws, you can make mistakes and you can lose your commission. You can, you know, like I've said before, it depends on what document you are signing. If it is a will, then you've messed up stuff for a family and they may have to go through probate. And that could be very, very costly for them. And you just don't want to do stuff like that. You want to stay on the laws. And when you are staying on the laws, it looks more professional as well. There was one gentleman that I did he actually reached me through Google. And when I went and I met him at the FedEx location and we did everything in the trunk of my car, and he was like, well, how do I know you are truly commissioned? And you are who you say you are. And I was like, well, here's my driver's license. And here's a copy of my commission because I keep one on me. And he was like, oh, okay. And I said, and if you really don't believe either of those, I said, you can look me up at the state of Texas. I said, and it'll show you I'm there as well, that I am fully commissioned. And he was just like, oh, okay. I don't think he ever did. And I've never heard from him since. But
You gave him
um,
that comfort
I
level.
gave him that comfort level and the fact that it was like, if you really want to look and make sure, here's where you need to go.
So, If you had a notary that came to you and told you that they were unsure or hesitant to ask questions, what would you tell them to do, or where would you tell them to go?
I have promoted Michelle and my Notary Academy and many different of the notary webs, not websites, but the notary Facebook pages out there. When someone says, "Oh, I'm new to a new notary in Texas and I need to get a mentor," I'm like, "Talk to Michelle. She's awesome." There's been times where I've linked my Notary Academy on there so that way they can do it. Go there and find out more information about you guys. Because even though, like, I also work with Notary Coach and stuff like that, it's they do more of like an overview of things. They don't do like right on notary laws and stuff. They do more of like the marketing and how to get into doing like the wills and trusts and stuff, or and I think they do fingerprinting and all the different stuff. And it's so if you want more down actual education on how to be an actual notary, that's when you guys come in.
Thank you. And I think that I mean, it's so important. Like I've said this entire time, is that knowing your skills, your laws, and your foundation are huge. We do all of the other courses, like the loan signing, the permit, and Audra's visibility, which is marketing and stuff like that. But our main focus is to get you to know your laws and your skills and your foundation, and we really hammer down on it because it makes you a better notary, right?
My husband did the loan signing service with like Mark Willis or whatever his name is.
Uh-huh.
And I watched a couple of his videos and it's just like he's like really pumped all the time. And it's just sometimes you get a little taken back by that. And but he's always said in all of his videos where someone asks like a specific question, he's like, "I'm not here to teach you how to be a notary itself. You want to find out how to be a notary, go see your state." He's just teaching all like the loan signing stuff. And so my husband's been doing that part of it. Pardon me. But it's weird how some of the other companies out there, you'd think that they would teach you how to be a notary as well, but they're just more about the programs and what you can do beyond being a notary.
Well,
Not
Lori, well, a lot of people don't know this, so now I have to tell you a little bit of history here. Is I actually was the very first ambassador for Loan Signing System.
Oh, wow.
I was one of the first 300 students when Loan Signing System got started, and it's a great program for marketing. But it was exactly that: is that you have to be a great notary before you can be a great signing agent. And
Mhm.
so it's actually one of the ways that Notary Academy became born was because in 2020 we formed Notary Academy and went to Mark because I was his ambassador and asked him about his blessing for Notary Academy. And he said, sky's the limit all the way. And that's really we Notary Academy was formed and blessed in that way because we knew that people needed to know their skills, their laws, and their foundation. And then, of course, dove deep into loan signing. Notary Academy didn't start teaching loan signing until 2022.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, we have a loan signing certification and course, and I created it, so I have to be biased and toot my own horn. It's it's a great loan signing. So when you're ready, maybe you'll take the Notary Academy one, and then you and your husband can, do it, combine them. Because I always say this is that education, no matter where you get it from, as long as it's quality education, it's important education. And taking more than one training program, nothing wrong with it. I'm NNA certified. I did LSS. I'm now having my Notary Academy. So it's okay to have multiple because it makes you a better, well-rounded notary. And so, yeah, I encourage you guys to do both, and then that way you'll be loan signing whiz.
I just
Yeah, I have.
it, I was
Go
gonna say
ahead.
with the loan signing, I was just seeing different, of course, going back to the different Facebook groups and how some of the signing services aren't paying a whole lot. And there's a whole bunch of complaints in there from the ones who've always done loan signing. And now, it's so low in pay. And they're like, well, yeah, it's all those newbies taking it, not knowing their worth. And I'm just like, I'd probably be that newbie going, $20, sure, I'll do it. Gives me the experience. And I told my husband that. He was like, well, Mark says we can make like 150, $200 doing this, but they're only offering like $50. I'm like, but have you done them to build up your portfolio, so to speak, to show that you've, hey, yes, I've done 100 of these now. So I am a little more proficient than I was when I first started. And he's like, well, maybe I should start doing that. But then there hasn't been any in this area when he's been able to actually go and do them. And so he's a little hesitant about doing some of them. And I'm just like, well, then you're hesitant and do what you need to do.
The beauty
go
of
back
it is,
and read all the notes that you took for the loan signing. Go back and do all the notes that you took for just being a notary itself and learning things. And I said, and go from there. I said, we're all going to make mistakes. If you make a mistake, they're going to send it back to you, tell you to go correct it, and go from there. And then you learn from it. But he's the same way. He doesn't want to make the mistakes like I have, or that I'm afraid of doing too.
But the beauty of it is that you're your own boss and you get to decide what your time is worth, how much you're getting out of gaining that experience. So I never fuss at anyone and tell them you're not getting paid enough. If you feel that that is valuable to you, whether it's monetarily or through experience, then do it. You have no one to answer to other than the party you're doing the job for. Your responsibility is to be a professional and to provide them with excellent service and a well-executed document. That's it. Nothing else matters.
No, that's true.
When I was a brand new notary, I worked for signing services like Coast to Coast, and they used to give me a lot of signings, and they would pay me $60 to $75 for full refis. I even took a loan modification once for $40, and I drove 80 miles for it. And then I drove 80 miles round trip. And then the same thing for the refis and stuff like that. I was thrilled I was a stay-at-home mom for 17 years. So to make $75, and it took me an hour and a half because I was new. It took me an hour and a half to do it. I was elated. And so then I was like, okay, well, I do 2 of these. Now I made $150. Oh my gosh. Now I'm done 4 of these and I made $300 today. And it was like amazing to me because I couldn't go work at the grocery store or Starbucks or anywhere else and make that kind of money.
Right.
And so, yeah, I agree with Michele. You took the words right out of my mouth, because I agree is that sometimes you just have to figure out what works for your business best. And if that means doing a $75 refi because that's how you're gaining your experience and that's what's good for you, sky's the limit. Do it.
Not only that though, but if you do it for that price and you're doing it consistently and you're showing the signing services, and they're getting where there's not mistakes or errors or something like that, and you're not fussing back at them, haggling over prices like some of the people in the groups are doing, they'll probably come to you more consistent, and then you get more. And then I don't know if they'd end up paying you more for it or not, but if you're doing a good job, they're going to say, well, okay, well, let's put a check mark beside that person's name, and we know to go to them before sending it out in, I guess, like in a group thing, a mass text or email or whatever, however they do it. And
schedulers can have favorites that won't go do that one trailing document because it's not enough money. They'd rather get a full package. So if you're willing to go do that one document for them that they have to have, you're going to be moving right along the list. And the next thing you know, they're like, Lori helped us out. We've got this beauty of a closing here. We're giving it to her. So it absolutely is seen, it's recognized, appreciated, and it does help you.
Not
It's almost
only,
like you're working up the ladder like you do at a job.
yep,
You know, you start down at the bottom, you're making peanuts, and then as you gain more experience and go on and on and
Build
on,
those
you get
reputations.
right. And you build that up.
as the owner of a national signing service, I can tell you what you just said is 100% correct. If I look on and I'm looking for a notary and I see a notary that is very inexperienced and green, but I need a notary and I feel like I'm going to just based off of their certifications and what they've put in their profile, I'm going to offer them, let's just say for a purchase, we'll say, okay, I'm gonna probably offer them $90 with with scan backs and everything until I get to know them better. Once I get to know them better, if like they do perfect, the next one, we're going to offer them $100. And as they continually do consistent and good work, we do offer our preferred notaries in that position $125. And depending on how good they are, if we have to push it to 150, we will. But we will only give it to the ones that we know are educated and deserving. So
That's
that's
how
huge.
it works. Yeah. And so that may, I don't know if it's true or not. So maybe some of these lowball um, packages out there, or signings that people are getting where they're saying, well, it's only $40. Maybe the signing service is lowballing to see who's actually going to take that. And if a a more seasoned person doesn't take it, and then once something, say $100 comes along, and then that person tries to take it, but meanwhile the green notary has gone through and done like 3 or 4 things and done them very well, who are they going to pick, that season one or the one that they've actually worked with a few times?
Yeah, we're going to pick the one that we've worked with a few times because we already know what their work ethic is. We've already worked with them. We know that they're going to be coachable, trainable, and if we've started off on the right foot and we know that we can come to you and say, hey, can you do this one for 90 or can you do it for 100 because we don't have a lot of room in it and you work with us, then the next one we're going to give to you for even more money when we have the ability to do so. It's a same thing as title and escrow. It's a you scratch my back, I scratch yours. You treat us well, we're going to do everything to treat you well and give you as much work that we possibly can.
I
So,
think that the housing stuff um, always scares me because there's so much to it, and the ones where you actually have to do it in a title or law office, and it's just like, oh, I'm just like, maybe we won't do those ones.
maybe
We'll
maybe in
wait
the
to do that in the
future.
future.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe in the future. So that's what are you excited about continuing to learn or improving as a notary then?
both. Because the more I learn, the better I'll improve my skills.
Yeah. And maybe one day you'll be doing loan signings as well cuz you can diversify and once you learn all your skills, you can do it all. Maybe one day you do loan signing and the next day you do an estate plan and then the next day you do general notary work. You know?
It's all out there.
It's all out there.
You
So
never know.
one thing that I hope that you take away from today is that there's no single path to being a great notary, but there is a right way to do the work. Lori's commitment to learning and Michele's role in providing state specific guidance are exactly what professional notary education should look like. If you're looking for a community that values education, ethics, and support, not shortcuts, Notary Academy is here for you. Hey, Lori and Michele, thank you both so much for being here today. Thanks for sharing your journey with us, Lori. I'm so excited to see you and your husband flourish in this business. And thank you so much for your support and being a Notary Academy student. And Michele, thank you for being the best darn Texas advisor that there ever was.
She sure is.
Thank you. I actually got to meet Lori and her husband. I drove up from Houston to McKinney just to have a lunch and learn with them.
That's
It was a lot of
amazing.
fun. Yeah.
That and see, that's what's so great about building the notary community is that you sometimes gain lifelong friends from it. So thanks for being here and thank you for being part of the community.
Thank you.